This here is an ice tray. If you don't know what this is, go take a look in your freezer and see if you have one. One of the things is what you'll notice is when you fill up this tray, this ice cube tray, you don't fill it up so that it's overflowing. In this case, here you just fill it up until it gets to the top. But if you look at this image here, you'll notice that the ice is actually above the surface of what the water is as a liquid. And so actually one of the things you can actually visibly see right here is the idea of ice is bigger than water. And so water expands as it freezes. Simple idea right there. And so this simple idea is related to frost action, also known as freeze-thaw. And so the basic idea here is water expands as it freezes. In the repeated cycles of freezing, thawing, what that does is that then breaks rock segments apart into smaller and smaller pieces, which once again, physical weathering exposes more of a surface area to further weathering. One way to showcase this, if we look at early American quarries, before they had the technology that they do today, in which they can just put a stick of dynamite in the ground and just blow it up, and then all of a sudden all the rock's now free. What they used to do is actually bore holes in the surface of a quarry, in a limestone or rock, whatever, granite, and actually put water in it during the fall with the idea that it's going to naturally cause freeze-thaw, and would then naturally break that rock away. And so that's what early Americans were doing and using way before they had a technology that they had today. One thing to note is in this area, Indiana, Kentucky, Smoky Mountains, Rocky Mountains as well, the springtime is really dangerous for falling rocks because that freeze-thaw, that's the end of that period, and it's happened throughout the entire winter, and of course now physical weathering can do its damage. One thing you'll also notice, where you see frost action, you don't see it in the southeast United States, which is why we're talking about it, because it happens right here in Indiana, because we are very much continental, but we're also a mid-latitude climate. So the key idea here is seasonality. That makes sense. Freeze-thaw. You're going to have changes in temperature throughout the year. Other areas, like I mentioned, the Appalachia and Rocky Mountains are also areas in which they have frost action as a physical weathering process. So what we have here is this chunk of rock, in which maybe, for some reason, maybe it's tectonics in which it develops a crack in it. And so that crack then leaves more of the surface area exposed. And so one of the things with physical weathering, with all weathering, but especially with physical weathering, is what it does over time is it increases the amount of surface area that can be then exposed to more atmospheric influences. And so one of the things we're going to look at here is how much surface area is exposed over time after a period of freeze and thaw cycles. So this is showcasing the fact that this crack, this joint, has then been filled with water, which was from a rain event. Then over time, in winter, that crack might actually become ice instead of water. And so just to do this, just think about you fill up your tray of you fill up a tray of water, and then you put it in your freezer, and you let it obviously it takes 5, 6, 10 hours, whatever, to eventually freeze that water. And what you'll notice is you put enough water in that it barely is overflowing. But when you pull out that tray, you've got a big, huge glob of ice, and so what happens is that water expands as it freezes. And so the same idea here, in which this crack, it's been filled with water, then it over time might freeze, and that water expands, and it's going to cause this crack to slowly but surely get bigger and bigger and bigger over periods of freeze and thaw cycles, as illustrated here, and here, and here, again, more, until we get to this point. Now think about how much surface area now is exposed compared to those earlier images. And eventually it's going to break off into two separate pieces, in which look how much now. We got a whole bunch of surface area exposed to more weathering. If If you know anything about Indiana, you know our roads are pretty awful in the late winter time. They got potholes and all those bumps and so forth. The idea, once again, relates to freeze-thaw, freeze-thaw, freeze-thaw. And so in Indiana, because we have this, anytime you get a little crack in the surface, it's only going to expand over time. And really you see this more out in country roads that don't get properly fixed throughout it's nothing like 465, which is being redone all the frickin' time. Here in this area, you can see, in country roads like this image here, you can see the evidence of freeze-thaw, freeze-thaw.